My first guest is Owen Rouse, a partner with Mannequin LLC, a regional full-service real estate firm. Owen's career spans nearly 30 years and covers the full spectrum of commercial real estate responsibilities from acquisition to disposition and just about everything in between. He currently directs Mannequin's deal-making activities, sits on the firm's investment and management committees, and plays an active role in business development and marketing. In 2010, Owen assumed the president of Corfac International, a global invitation-only network of entrepreneurial real estate firms and one of the largest commercial real estate service organizations in the world. Owen, welcome to Down to Business.
Thank you, Michael.
Quite an impressive resume.
Thank you.
What is the state of the real estate market nationally and in Howard County?
Well, we're working our way through a recession. And by some estimates, we have come out of that last year. I would say that Howard County is ahead of the United States in terms of its recovery from that recession. And our real estate market on the whole tends to be a little bit healthier here than nationally, and some of our counterparts on the West Coast, maybe some of our counterparts in the middle of the country, have not benefited from the recovery perhaps as much as we have here.
So I want to ask two questions about that. The first one is, what does this recovery look like? How do you know we're in a recovery right now?
Well, the government, I think, will be telling us shortly that the recession ended sometime perhaps last summer or last fall, based on consecutive quarters of positive GDP growth. What we are seeing anecdotally, though, are more companies that are not just kicking the tires in terms of looking at space. We're seeing transactions on the sales side that are actually occurring rather than failing to close. And we're seeing some tenants that are in existing space wanting to grow a little bit larger.
Okay.
So anecdotally, I think they add up to some positive news, and I think that really means that we've turned the corner.
Now, what are the dynamics that allowed Howard County to outperform the rest of the country, generally speaking, in commercial real estate?
Well, we're certainly pinched between two markets, Baltimore and Washington, with a terrific transportation network between those two. We do have the NSA here, which has been a terrific engine of growth for our market. We like to say feds, meds, and eds. The federal government,
I like that.
The medical community, as evidenced by what's going on in Baltimore, and education, that's what's going on probably all around the Beltway and down here as well.
Okay.
So with those three drivers, we really have been able to surf through a little bit of rough water in terms of the recession.
Now, did the commercial real estate market suffer from any of the dysfunctions that affected the residential side of things?
Well, we did have borrowers, and we did have properties that took on perhaps more debt than they could stand over time. We have seen that evidenced by companies that have left buildings and left the owners unable to pay their mortgages. I think it's been much more under the radar screen than the subprime market has been recorded. But I would also say that we're not in the last inning of that game yet, so we'll wait and see what happens over the next 3 to 4 quarters on the commercial mortgage side.
Now that we are coming back from an economic standpoint, do you expect any of the dynamics in the commercial real estate market to change or be different now than they were 3 or 4 years ago, in Howard County specifically?
Well, there's been certain changes in the entitlement process. Stormwater management regulations just passed at the state level this last session.
What is that?
Well, you've all seen stormwater management ponds where you have a building next to a bucolic pond, and perhaps there's some of those white swans nesting in there, or geese or two. It's really to catch water that runs off a parking lot, treat the water before it's fed into the place where it goes next.
Okay.
And those regulations governing how you treat and handle stormwater and runoff have been rewritten. And that has some implications for the development community in terms of time and dollars, and certainly how they're going to do things. So I think that's going to be a little bit different. I think from a tenant standpoint, it used to be that landlords paid a lot of attention to the credit of a tenant. I think tenants are paying a lot of attention to the credit of their landlords.
Turn around is fair play.
Yeah, just to make sure that that fellow you're sending your mortgage check to every month is going to be there next month. So there's some new dynamics in the market for sure.
Now, I've talked to a number of people in the construction industry, and even today, they're making bids at very thin margins, sometimes barely covering costs. In some cases, they're writing checks to the people they're making the bid to just to get the business. How does that mesh sort of with the recovery that you've talked about? Are they lagging in terms of the recovery?
Well, real estate as a national indicator is a lag economic indicator.
Okay.
Once people get jobs, they'll occupy office space or perhaps manufacturing space. Once those jobs kick in, there's money at the household level to spend on retail. Stores then fill up with inventories from warehouses, so stuff has to come back to the warehouses and the retailers have to restock. So we're really sort of at the tail end in sort of the vapor trail of the national recovery. And I think that's what you're going to see going forward as well.
Now, one of the benefits of Howard County being where it is that we have a huge government sector there, as you mentioned before. Is the government, sort of the normal activity of the government driving business, or is BRAC a huge increment to that?
I think here BRAC is a tremendous increment to that. I think there has always been the vibe of the government because of the National Security Agency presence here. But I think you've seen obviously that presence ramped up since 9/11. All the contractors to the NSA have been ramped up. Now we're going to have the Defense Information Security Agency, DISA, move here, which is going to be another boost to the local economy. And with them will come the contractors that do work for that agency.
Now, is the government as price-driven as the private sector?
Well, the government has different needs than the private sector, particularly as it relates to security. And so there are different specifications now for buildings that are going to be leased to the government that have to be a little bit more secure than, say, ones you and I would enter on a day-to-day basis. And certainly some of the space inside of those buildings to make it so you can't listen in through the glass of the windows, things like that make it special.
Now, is owner-occupied real estate coming back? I think you made reference to that before. We're seeing activity there?
We are seeing activity, and I would suggest the background for that is some trades that we're seeing in the marketplace, some sales that are occurring. Typically small owners. We like to say that they're tired of being tenants and they're ready to be owners. There is some lending going on at a small level, say $5 million and below. There are some banks that are stepping up to finance those credit-worthy tenants that don't want to be tenants anymore.
And of course, they've changed the definition of credit-worthy, have they not?
I think it changes on a daily basis.
Right. Is there a lot of inventory in the market with regard to owner-occupied real estate? I see signs everywhere.
There's signs everywhere, but we're in an interesting market because you see a sign does not mean there's a vacancy in the space.
Really?
Oftentimes companies, and my own included, will leave a sign out in order to generate calls that might be a tenant looking for space that while they may not fit into that particular building, there could be something close by that would accommodate their needs. So you'll see a lot of signs out that is not a barometer of the health of the market.
One more marketing ploy, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Have a lot of owners lost their properties over the last couple of years?
We have seen more than in years past.
Okay.
Because of the troubles in the commercial mortgage-backed securities market, the way a lot of buildings were financed over the last few years. That financing has tipped over some of those buildings, and they've gone back to their lenders to be resold back into the marketplace or recycled or repurposed. So there's been a little bit more of that than we've seen, and there's probably more of that to come.
Okay. With BRAC coming in with the cybersecurity initiatives, do we have enough commercial space in Howard County to accommodate all of this growth?
We have enough today, but that has to be balanced with sort of a longer entitlement process, mainly stormwater management regulations, those kinds of things that elongate the development process. So tenants, if they want their own building, can't sort of make that happen in 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
That's probably a 12 to 15 to 18 month time frame. And as long as we don't have huge chunks of space being requested, the market will be able to keep pace. It's when you get a couple of large requirements that really chew up your inventory quickly, and you've got a time lag to replace it. That's when you could get into a pinch.
Do we have the infrastructure to support all of this, the roads and so forth?
I think we have good infrastructure here, and I think it'll be sufficient. We've got really a terrific infrastructure. We're 10 minutes, 10 miles now, 10 minutes, 10 miles from the airport. We've got 3 interstates with relatively quick access, I-70, I-95, and 97. We've got a commuter rail network through the spine of Howard County, and we've certainly got great east-west roads, not the least of which is perhaps the outer loop beltway. We know it as Route 100. It goes from 97 to 70,
Right.
but really it's kind of a quarter of a beltway. So yeah, we've got terrific infrastructure here.
So you just answered my next question about how viable is Howard County as a commercial real estate market. I think you just answered that. Is there more you'd like to add?
I think it's a great market. I think it has some challenges in terms of 2/3 of the county is sort of off limits to commercial development. So you've got to crowd everything into the remaining 1/3 of the county, which presents some traffic issues and may burden that infrastructure a little bit more than it perhaps would like, or perhaps that you and I would like.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because you're right, there's a huge part of the county no one apparently can touch. At some point, do we just reach a situation where we just can't build anymore?
Well, I guess you could conceivably reach that situation. I think there is this idea of smart growth and repurposing older buildings. Howard County is aging in place. There have been numerous developments where buildings have been torn down probably before the end of their useful life to get at their next life a little bit earlier. So I think you'll see a little bit more of that happening.
It sounds like, if I can interpret, what I'm hearing here is a form of urban renewal, or as we used to call it, urban removal. Do you ever see a time when those kinds of programs will be implemented in Howard County, or someone will use eminent domain to try to make some of these things happen?
I think eminent domain's a little bit severe.
Okay.
I think the suburban renewal that we have seen here, and I'll give you the example of the Wegmans facility that hopefully will be built one day on Snowden River Parkway, was an old, outdated warehouse, but a terrific location. So the value was in the dirt on the corner, not what sat on it.
Right, I got you. So, if commercial development wanes, well, first of all, do you think commercial development is going to wane in Howard County?
I think we're having a bit of a timeout.
Okay. And what do you think the economic impact on the county is going to be?
Well, you're certainly going to see less new development in the county for some period of time. And they'll be spotty. It'll happen in fits and spurts here and there. So it will not happen with the verve that it has in the past. And certainly with the elongated time frame, when things do come back, it still will be another year before you can actually deliver something.
Okay. You have identified a number of issues that you feel Howard County needs to address, or that could have an impact on how this county grows. Can you talk about a couple of those?
Water and sewer, Western County. That's sort of the, notwithstanding the fact that your zoning doesn't accommodate much growth, Western growth via water and sewer, where is sort of the edge of that going to happen? Density in the town center. What does that mean? What does it look like? Village centers, what will they become in their next life? Affordable housing. What does that mean in Howard County? And I don't mean a house that starts with the number 3.
What does it mean to you?
Workforce.
What should it mean to all of us, I guess, is the better question.
Affordable housing, I believe, is workforce housing. Is that housing which can accommodate that part of the workforce that are school teachers, police officers, firemen, those that need to be in proximity to where they work. We've seen this around the country, where you sort of have a long commute in for that job because there's no affordable housing in your immediate area, and you just kind of drive until you can find what you can qualify to buy.
How do we get around NIMBY? Not in my backyard.
Not in my backyard. That's a very good question. I'm not sure I have the answer to that.
Okay.
Maybe there's a shared responsibility to make that available for people, and just trying to find a location that works for everyone.
Okay. We've got about 30 seconds left. Any words of what you can expect in the commercial real estate market over the next 3 or 4 years?
I think there'll be a return to equilibrium. The market is very efficient, and frankly welcomes a little bit of a timeout.
Okay.
Got a little bit overheated, and now it's making a self-correction. We've seen this before. This one looks a little bit different, but the concept is unchanged from past.
We will end on that optimistic statement. I want to thank you for being with us today. It's been good seeing you again.
Thank you, Michael.
Always insightful.
Appreciate the opportunity.
My guest has been Owen Rouse, partner with Mannequin LLC. Stay with us. We'll be right back.